I knew making this album, it was something special. Making Michael, me and Cuz Lightyear, you know, some of you guys have followed him from his mass appeal, you know, March Forward, you know, put his career on pause, and we got in. He A&R'd this project, and
salute.
He's just look forward to him being one of the all-time great A&R wives, and you know, should they ever choose to pivot back into artistry, y'all ain't gonna be mad at that either. But that kid's amazing. But yeah, making it, we took it serious. So we wanted to be Grammy winners. So the Grammy nomination is a stop on the road to marching out with some trophies. In my opinion, you know, Michael is to black males, working class males, and the women that love them, you know, and people and families that love them. This is your miseducation album, you know.
Wow.
From the black masculine side.
Wow. Of course, 2023, we're here going into 2024.
And my reference to miseducation is Miseducation Lauryn Hill.
Yeah.
For those who may not know.
I mean, I didn't. If you,
I know you knew.
Under a rock, I didn't.
You gotta say, you gotta, you know, get an internet troll to change.
Talk about the state of hip hop, man. And it's funny because I've been seeing paying attention to a lot of dialogue about the negativity in hip hop, the impact on the community, how it affects children. And I'm listening to Michael, studying, you know. I wanted to dive in, you know, to my brother. And, you know, it felt like an autobiography almost to me.
It's autobiographical, absolutely.
Right, okay.
Absolutely.
And
not just about me though, just about this city and the community I grew up in.
Right, right. And at the same time that hip hop has been getting this negative effect to it. And of course I want to get your opinion on that.
Yeah.
Michael drops and you're creating Michael.
Yeah.
Can you kind of break down the moment in time? Because hip hop gets such this impact that it's not affecting the kids, the community in a proper fashion.
Yeah. If you're one of the people that are highly critical of hip hop and you aren't as vocal about my album, you're a liar. And shame on you. I don't know who wrote the 10 bad books when Zora Neale Hurston wrote Of Mules and Men, of Their Eyes Were Watching God. But I know those two. You know, I don't know who the bullshit minstrel show writers were who were still doing black minstrel shows, but I know who Paul Robeson was. You know.
Yeah.
I don't know, you know, what trash was being created that your grandparents and parents parted to. But I know songs in the key of life. I know Mahalia Jackson. So my thing is, if you're gonna spend that much time talking about a negative and not give as much time to a positive like my album, Michael, you're just full of shit. You still like pornography. You just like to look at it and tell somebody else they should be ashamed.
Wow. Wow.
That's all. Oh, I've watched what you watching. You should be ashamed of yourself. Well, you're not ashamed of yourself.
Right.
Look at the ignorance you watch. Look at the ignorance that sprang you. I remember watching Dr. Naeem Akbar, and I always tell people, Google these names. I'm saying these people still alive. Watching Dr. Naeem Akbar and them asking him, you know, what did he do? He was giving a speech. I think it was over at Clark. And he was giving a speech, and they were talking about, you know, the negative influence of media. Because at that time, folks were saying rap was destroying us too. Y'all same folks that stand in the kitchen and say this. Remember, y'all grew up to 2 Live Crew. You grew up to Too Short. You know, you grew up to the Dogs, Disco Rick. You grew up to all the things that generations before us said were terrible to us and that were going to tear us down. But what you have is a counterbalance in Atlanta. So I'm speaking hyper locally. If you went to Therrell, you went to Mays, you went to Frederick Douglass, the school you was named for black excellence.
Right.
It was up for you to seek it. It was up for the teachers to encourage you. Many of the principals, they did. But what you had was balance. And you got to question yourself then, if kids are absent balance, how have I contributed to that? How have I contributed to, do you go to your local schools and volunteer and help? Do you host a reading hour in your home on Saturdays for kids? Do you do 20 pages a day? You know, what do you do before you get to the rapper? We rappers, we ignorant. We don't know no better. We just gonna sing and dance but we educated in the same schools that sprung you. So what happened? to Frederick Douglass High School in between 1993 and 2003. There was a school of excellence with only 2 principals. Now you can down to name 10 principals they went through. Currently, they got a great principal over there. So you got guys like me, T.I., Lil Jon popping up, you know, helping to get the school on course and where it should be, you know. If we not doing that, then we can't keep talking about the negative that rap.
Okay.
Because rap doesn't educate your children first. You do.
Yeah.
So what is so shakable about the foundation that you have laid or not laid for your child that rap has that big of an influence? I rap too short, but I still knew to respect my mama and my auntie, and I ain't get too fly out my mouth with my grandmother. What are you allowing your children to see? See, there was a time where children had to go in another room. I don't know what the fuck was going on in the adult room, but it sounded amazing. Are you putting those barriers between you and your children, you know? Right, in terms of when you, do they see you? If your child see you hitting the dope, you know, if your child see you, and let's get beyond that, because that's low class, this is when we start blaming poor people. If your child see you working hard for a house and not them, or your child see how much your Mercedes matter to them, and you get an ungrateful, spoiled, rotten child, you contributed to that. You can't blame that on rap.
So are you saying like who's accountable?
I'm saying we're all accountable. But before you start pointing us out, look in the mirror and say, what am I doing or not doing?
Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
So you're saying
before
like,
you even start being entertained
right,
by a person blaming rappers,
right,
what is that person doing?
Right.
And why aren't you doing it with them instead of watching them talk about rappers? If you're wasting an hour of your time watching somebody degrade a rapper, you have wasted an hour of opportunity of time to help the neighbors to the 10 doors left and right of you. Did you go cut somebody's grass who yard ain't been cut? Did you go tutor a child? No, you didn't. You sat and watched some entertainment, talk about other entertainment that doesn't agree with the entertainment your children watching. You're just a part of the same matrix we are. You know,
so in Killer Mike's lens, like outside, you know, you listed some things. I'm just thinking like, what are some of the steps that the accountability?
Well, on a hyper local level, what was Killer Mike doing last night? Well, the day before this, the day before I was shooting a video in Miami. Had just left shooting a video in LA. Told my wife I just need a day of rest. Stayed a day and rested in Miami. Got on the plane, got here, landed. Made sure that organizations got up to $50,000. Georgia Youth Build is one of the organizations. Gary Davis is Next Level Boys Academy. What those organizations do? Next Level Boys Academy takes young men who facing 100-year, 200-year life sentences, gives those boys, through cooperation with the courts, a second chance, an opportunity to redeem themselves. You know, to wipe their criminal records clean and to be productive young men. Told Gary Davis last year, your cameramen are right in here with you. You don't have to go find a cameraman to hire. Train these boys. Was proud to see that this year these boys brought their own cameras. They was filming their own thing. But that's what Gary Davis is doing. Christina, over at Georgia Youth Build. Georgia Youth Build takes young men and women from 14 to 24 years old, teaches them an actual trade, electrician, carpentry, welding. Those kids then go get union jobs, making $70,000, $80,000, $90,000 a year. Well, that's what I do. That's what I did. So I was working 3 days ago. I reset for 1 day, and then last night I landed and I made sure that corporations like Tito's Vodka, people were donating money right out of their pockets there, that they got money, and I was standing in a building I own. I was standing in the swag shop, you know, and I was making sure that the people that I employ had an opportunity to use their trade on young tradesmen and young women, so they could, young tradesmen and young tradeswomen, to understand the importance of having a trade. So that's what I do hyper-locally, because that's what my grandmother told me you're supposed to do. Take care of hyper-locally, what you're supposed to do. You know, so for me, that's what I'm doing in Atlanta. I'm making sure that I am a part of philanthropic things that make sure children have trades. That's what I do, because that's what I deem is important. Other stuff that I do, I sit on the board of the High Museum. I make sure that they stay an all-inclusive museum, a museum that expands and broadens and opens its doors to make sure the kids from the West Side who are inspired by art like me, you know, like Shannon McCullen, who's Little Yachty's father, people like Fahamu Piku, who's a famous artist here, that people like us know that we're welcome there. That's one of the things that I do. You know, one of the things I do is I make sure that the things that put me here, I reinvest into. And first and foremost, those are the young people in Atlanta, you know? So I would advise you to ask your 10 neighbors, what can we do to make our neighborhood better, and be about the business of that. That means that you may not change the world, but you're gonna change your world. You know, there's a woman I've known since I was 11 years old, Chief Judge Asha Jackson. She started the Pinnacle program out in DeKalb County. It takes people who may have gotten in some trouble, gives them a year to redeem themselves, and after that year, they graduate the Pinnacle program. Their program was so successful that black woman, Democrat, provides an example for a statewide program that a white Republican governor says that this is worthy, and then puts another black woman Democrat, Mrs. Ali, over from juvenile court. So that's what I do with my time. I try to involve myself in things that are going to affect us on a state level, on a broader policy level for kids. I try to make sure that kids have trades so that we're growing the next level of middle class people in terms of growing them into adulthood, make sure we can have stable families that produce kids that are learners and earners. And you know, and I try to be about the business of being about black business.
Know what I want? Trendsetter. Know what I need?